Here's your host, Alex Garrett.
Now, I have a Cairo, Illinois resident. Yes, Cairo, Illinois, a town that maybe you didn't hear of until the solar eclipse hit that little town of Illinois. And with me now is Robert Edwards of the Rise Community Grocery, the only grocery store in Cairo, Illinois. First of all, have you recovered from the big influx of tourists, Robert?
Yes, we have.
Well, just give up my listeners a background on Cairo and why CNN came to your town last week.
So Cairo is a small town, the southernmost tip of Illinois, and it used to actually be a fairly large city. There were a lot of things through the history of this town that have caused it to lose population. Went from a city that I believe at one time had around 20,000 people in it to now it's somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 people. It's a community that has had its struggles and a community that's come together to try and rebuild and improve things. That's actually where the grocery store that I manage comes in. It's a co-op style grocery store that the community came together to put there. I believe that CNN primarily wanted to feature us because we're one of those small communities. There's small communities all across the country that have faced those same types of struggles. But this community is one that has really come together and started working hard to change the direction that things were going.
I also feel like they highlighted you guys in a way of here's a small town that can gain some hope from this eclipse. Would you feel that was accomplished? There was some hope that maybe people will come back. I mean, it is a solar eclipse. How do you get those people to come back on a non-solar eclipse day, if you will?
So I'll be honest with you. I think I wasn't the only one. There was some skepticism about whether or not people would come to Cairo for that eclipse at first. I think most of the residents thought people would go to one of the bigger towns around us that was going to be doing events and things like that. I really didn't do a lot of preparation until about 2 weeks prior when I started seeing people talking on social media that they were coming to this area in Cairo specifically. So we didn't do as much as we could have to help bring people back, unfortunately. But once people realized that it was going to be a big event, I think the community tried to do some things to show to that people from out of town, the tourists, the visitors, exactly what they could visit here. Cairo itself has a lot of history to it. It's a beautiful town. I've only lived here a couple of years myself, but I remember when my wife and I first came to Cairo, we fell in love with the town right away just from the history of it that you can see when you drive around it without even learning the history. But I know that there were a great deal of people down at the point where the Ohio River, the confluence of the Ohio and the Mississippi River, the Ohio runs into the Mississippi right there. And, I know that people got to see the beauty of this town. There's a good opportunity for people to come back and enjoy that, enjoy the history that's around here. And in years past, they haven't really had a lot of options as far as what they can do here in town. There's been some remodeling that's happened at the hotel here recently. So the hotel's actually pretty nice. There's only one hotel here in town. We've got a grocery store now. There's a few restaurants that have opened up as well. So people are seeing that there's actually something to come to Cairo for that they can enjoy while they enjoy some of the beauty that's around us.
Are any corporations invested in your town, like a Starbucks, or I'm looking around a McDonald's? Or are you hoping that comes around too?
Well, there's no major chain restaurants or anything like that. If you want to get to a McDonald's, which is going to be the closest fast food type, major fast food place to us, the closest McDonald's is probably about a 30-minute drive away, maybe a little less than that. Even the closest Walmart's about a 40 to 45-minute drive. Kroger, same way. Any of those type of big things like that are a good drive away. If you come here and you're staying in the local hotel or one of the Airbnbs, you're gonna probably eat at one of the local restaurants cooking local foods, but it's a lot better than what you'll find at McDonald's anyhow, uh, and
This
probably
might
better.
be a weird question, but was there ever, because the Field of Dreams game has been happening a couple of times. Are you guys close to that part of Iowa to maybe get tourism through that where they're traveling to and from, or is that a little farther away from you guys?
You said it's in Iowa.
Yeah, the one in the Field of Dreams, is that close? Because I know that Iowa's a border state. Is that anywhere near you guys or not at all? Right.
So we actually are in that southernmost tip of Illinois. So the two rivers come together at the confluence of the Ohio and the Mississippi. And on one side of us is Kentucky, the other side of us is Missouri. Iowa's a good distance up north in the state to
Uh-huh.
get there.
Robert, I mainly want to bring you on also not just talk about the solar eclipse and how dark it got. Did it get dark at all? I mean, how much did it cover the sun where you were?
It did cover the sun where we were. It wasn't dark as pitch black night, but it was dark enough that you could see some of the stars in the sky.
So for those listening to this podcast, Robert, and you are the manager of the only supermarket, what can people do to support your town?
Well, one of the things people can definitely do to help support our town is support the grocery store. The grocery store that I manage is a community owned grocery store, and we've got members. The members of our grocery store are the owners of our grocery store. Right now, we've got about 470 members, and we have members all across the country. Some of them are in California, New York, Tennessee, all across the country. Those are people that have bought in on the grocery store because they wanted to see this community have that. Prior to us opening up, we opened up in June of last year. Prior to us opening up, there was nothing. There was a Dollar General. That was it. And the people of this community either had to make a long drive. There's a lot of people that couldn't drive, so they had to pay someone to give them a ride, or they had to eat the food that Dollar General provided for them. It was not one that had like fresh produce or anything like that. Now that we're here and we've got the grocery store opened up, that has been a huge impact on the community when people can get fresh food locally. The other thing is, when you get on those road trips, we do set right off an interstate exit, but there's a lot of people that come through town that are doing different trips along the rivers or through some parts of Southern Illinois have some really beautiful parks, some really beautiful sites. There's everything from the Little Grand Canyon, things like that. If you make those trips, make it as a part of the stop. Just stop in and support one of the local businesses. Maybe instead of stopping at the McDonald's on the interstate several miles away, try to stop at one of the little local restaurants, because you're going to find that you're going to find friendly people, really good food. Every restaurant here in town is really good, and you're going to help support a town that's trying their best to grow from where they were.
So with the co-op, it's basically that. But when it comes to the history of your town, I know you said that is a reason maybe why people left. Is there a thing you want to say on this podcast that says, what, don't let our history define who we are today, and even say, come on back, so to speak?
Things that I was told was, you're gonna get robbed there, you're gonna get, shot there, things like that, because the town had this reputation, I guess. Same thing when we went to open up the grocery store. There were people that were naysayers saying the same sort of thing, like you're going to get robbed so much you won't be able to stay in business. You're going to get held up every other week. Things like that were common for us to hear. My wife and I didn't listen to that stuff when we moved here. I didn't listen to it when I worked hard on getting the store opened up, along with the board of directors and the rest of the community. And I can tell you that stuff that's said there, and I see it on social media as well, it's just simply not true. And the people that actually give this town a chance, they come down here and they get to know some of the people. The community around here is great. The people are great. Uh, I, I've never felt unsafe a single time here in this community, be it at the store or at home or when I'm out walking around the streets. It's not what some people try to make it out to be.
Talking with Robert Edwards of the Rise Community Supermarket. He's in Cairo. I'm in New York City. And you just mentioned about moving in. Tell us about your story. How did you end up in Cairo as the manager of the Rise Supermarket?
So now that's a little bit of an interesting story that I don't know. I don't know if you're one of those people that believes in things that are meant to be or not.
Always 100% that. Yes, sir.
I'm not 100% sure if I believe in that myself, but I have a hard time looking at the way that this came to be and not thinking it wasn't meant to be. Because my wife and I, we had been talking about moving for a little bit. I was working a job. I had actually gotten out of retail for a few years. I didn't want to do retail work anymore. And I was working a job at a power plant, completely out of retail. I had done retail management for many years and I was just wanting something new. And I found out I was going to have surgery on my knee. So I wasn't going to be able to go back to that job when I had that surgery. It just wasn't something I was going to be able to do. And my wife and I decided that we were going to take that opportunity when I was going to be off work post surgery to move. We wanted to relocate to a different place in the country. We actually wanted to move to the Southwest is where we were originally looking at. We were looking at like New Mexico, Arizona, some of those areas. We never looked at anywhere in the entire state of Illinois at the time. But as luck would have it, we came out to look at a house one night and not here in Cairo, in the areas that we've been looking at. And it wasn't as it was described, but it was a long drive to get home. And so we stayed at a hotel in Illinois. And for whatever reason, I was on the Realtor app, just glancing at houses around us. And the house we ended up buying here in Cairo, we'd never stepped foot in the town before, but the house that we ended up buying here in Cairo popped up on the app and I saw it and I'm like, man, that's a really beautiful house. And something's got to be wrong with it. Look at the price on it. We just started talking about it. So we contacted the realtor that was listing it and made an appointment to meet her the next morning from the hotel room. Next morning, we drove out here and looked at the house and just fell in love with. We got here an hour early, so we drove around town before the realtor got here. We fell in love with the town right away. Like, this town is just beautiful. Some people, if you get on YouTube, you'll see some videos and stuff where they show some destroyed buildings. It's one of those things of perception again, that you can show anything. There might be a brand new house. Well, it's not brand new, but a really nice house across the street, but they're going to show what they want the story to tell. But when you're actually here and you drive through the roads and stuff and you see the beauty that's in this town and stuff, it was one of those things that we just fell in love with the town right away. And then we got to see the house that we ended up getting and we really fell in love with it. And so we made an offer on the house and just moved to Cairo on a whim. I didn't even have a job. I told my wife, I said, I've got a good enough resume. I'll find a job without too much problem. Well, the mayor of Cairo had been sitting on the board that was organizing for the grocery store. And he is also the meter reader for the electrical company. And when we moved here, our yard is gated in and we had changed the locks on the gates. So to read the meter, he's got to get through the gate. He had to knock on my door to get a key to the gate or have me unlock it at first. And I gave the electric company a key so he wouldn't have to do that anymore. But I was just talking to the mayor and in the course of the conversation, he asked us how we got here and stuff. And I told him what I used to do. I think I said something to the effect of, yeah, I'm not too worried about it. I'll find a job. I've got years of grocery management experience. And he just looked at me with his eyes real big. That's what they were looking for, was somebody with grocery management experience to manage a grocery store that they were just talking about opening up that time. So it was like the perfect timing. I actually finished my physical therapy on my leg the week before I got hired to start working for the grocery store. It just all just fell in like it was just meant to be that way.
I was gonna ask you how your knee is, but no, God is good, and I gotta tell you, this is almost instinctual too and godly as well, because I see on your website, risecommunitymarket.com, you have a special presentation at 2 p.m., I believe, Central on April 28th. Tell us what's going on. If those in actually Cairo listing, what's going on the 28th?
So we're really fortunate that we're getting this presentation. It's not something that we would normally be able to have, but an author who's also an expert on food co-ops. He sat on the board of some co-ops, or of a co-op, a major co-op in Canada. He's visited a lot of co-ops throughout the States and in Canada, and he's been instrumental in helping build apps and stuff like that for different co-ops. He's a big ambassador of community-owned stores like ours, and so much so that he's the guy that literally wrote the book on it, right? He is going to be here in town. He's going to do a presentation for us for the community. Who owns your grocery store is essentially what it's going to be around. It's going to be an inspirational message to help people realize just how much the store means. And while I mentioned that we have a lot of people that it impacts that already realize that, education is always key for us, and letting people know. Yeah, usually you walk into a store and you see a manager up there and you think, either he's the owner, or he's the manager, he's making money off of you. I get paid a salary that's determined by the board. And if the store does $1 million in sales this year, or $2 million, or $10 million, my salary stays the same. It doesn't impact me one way or the other on that, other than the pride of a job well done. What it impacts is community. The profits go back to the people that own the store, the members, based upon how much they shop there and stuff. So the money just comes back to the community. It doesn't go out to some corporate pockets or into mutual funds or anything like that. The money stays right here with the people that are spending it if the store succeeds. And that's going to be a little bit about what he talks about. We're planning on trying to get as many people as we can to show up for that meeting out of the community. And there's a couple other co-ops, or there's at least one I know of that is one group that's trying to start a co-op nearby that may be here in attendance as well to hear what he has to say, so that they can help with spreading that messaging out in their communities and help to inspire people. Because that's basically what that meeting is about inspiring people in the community to continue to work together for something that's, binds us all, food. Everybody has to eat. And so it's one common interest that everybody can find, no matter where you live. And so it's about inspiring people to keep, not just to act, but to keep acting on that afterwards.
Well, that's going to be a very cool event. Now, as far as last week with the solar eclipse, were things flying off the shelves? When I watched that CNN piece with Anderson Cooper, I got the idea you guys were thinking everything was going to fly off the shelves. Did that happen for you guys at the Rise Supermarket during the influx of tourism during the solar eclipse?
So most of the people that were coming in were buying quick snack type items for the road: chips, soft drinks, bottled water, things like that. So we did run out of a couple of those things, but we were pretty well stocked. We were able to get that stuff stocked up. Well, not the things that we ran out of weren't detrimental to business. If you go in there and you're out of Diet Coke, they might buy Coke Zero instead, that sort of thing. We had a lot of people that were stopping in. They want to use the restroom. They pick up a bag of chips or a soda to go with them too. The big thing that really increased for us was the sub shop. People coming in and buying a sandwich, because there's not a lot around to stop and get something to eat. And the restaurants around town are mostly set down type restaurants. We were the one place that they could find anywhere nearby where they could just go in and grab something and take it on the road with them. So those picked up significantly, but not enough that we ran out of anything.
Talking with Robert Edwards of the Rise Community Supermarket. Robert, are you playing multiple roles right now at the supermarket, or are you fully staffed in a town of 2,000 people?
So there's a full staff of employees at the store. There's 7 employees in total. We're not a huge store that can support, a huge staff. So I do have to get out there and physically work. But that's part of, what makes it great. Um, in a small store like this, it's not just me too. I've got community members that they come in there and they see something out of place to move it to the right place and stuff. Really, the whole community, and it's a community-owned grocery store, so it makes sense. Really, the whole community kind of pitches in ways to try and help make it stay a success.
Now, it was mentioned that there were places charging a lot during their solar eclipse moment at Cairo, Illinois. I want to look at the bigger picture with you, Robert. Has inflation hit that supermarket in Cairo as much as it has, say, a New York City supermarket?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Inflation is harmful in a few ways to us. Um, the first way is, it drives our costs up, which makes it harder to operate, period. And you don't want to pass along any more of that to a consumer than you have to, because consumers are price conscious. And a co-op operates off of 7 basic principles. And one of those primary principles is concern for community. So we want to try and do right by the community itself. So we want to try and keep our prices as low as possible. Unfortunately, as inflation rises, that becomes more difficult to do. When we opened in June of last year, chicken wings are a good example. I was selling cases of chicken wings to customers for $65 a case back in June. Today, it cost me well over $100 to buy a case of chicken wings at my cost. So the cost has more than doubled in less than a year's time on chicken wings. And there's other factors other than just inflationary issues that have caused that on chicken wings specifically. But there's a multitude of items like that. And part of the way that hurts too is when you're in a small community like this, it hurts your perception. Price perception is key. If you go into any major retailer, they all try and give you the perception of the cheapest price possible. Even if you look like the mega corporations like Walmart, the price perception is what they go on. So they do things called loss leaders, like milk is almost always sold at a loss. That's one of the best examples. They rarely make money on milk. Or around Thanksgiving time, they put those turkeys down real cheap and take a loss on them. Because when you're doing your Thanksgiving shopping, if you're able to buy your turkey really cheap, you get that perception that things are cheap throughout the whole store. And the problem is, as inflation rises rapidly, if you've got someone that doesn't go out of town a whole lot because it's a long ways away, like it is for our community, they don't see those prices rising at the other stores. They just know what it was last time they went to one of those big stores. And when they come into your store here in the community, it gives them a perception of a higher price than what it sometimes really is. I've gone out and done price checks at other competitors. They're not really competitors because they're so far away, but at other grocers. And, oftentimes my price is cheaper than what their price is. But the consumer comes in here, and the last time they went, it was cheaper at, say, Walmart. And then they come in your store. They don't recognize sometimes that Walmart price isn't the same anymore. They had a price hike too. And it just gives that perception that it hurts the price perception of a business in a small community like this, especially bad.
Inflation's political, so let's stay with politics, specifically Illinois politics, and tell us if the government of Illinois, the state government of Illinois, is supporting a small town supermarket like Cairo. I mean, I feel like sometimes there are governments that turn their back on small business. What has the government of Illinois and then the state government of Illinois done for you to ensure its success at Rise Community Supermarket?
There's been several lawmakers that have helped the store apply for some grants or to get approved for some grants. That's how our walk-in cooler is finally getting replaced, is through a USDA grant. The governor himself has worked hard on a bill that in the Illinois area, maybe not where you're at, but in Illinois, it's been in the news a lot to help small grocery stores like ours out. So there's been a lot of support. The lieutenant governor actually was here for our grand opening and was a strong supporter that actually helped start the store in the very beginning. And it's not just the Democrats or the Republicans, because there's there's people from both sides of the aisle that have been involved in this project and in this community in so many ways, from not just the grocery store, but to the housing and to the trying to create jobs and stuff. I feel like we're actually really fortunate that we get as much attention as we do from the politicians here in a positive way.
All right, well, let's really get to know Robert Edwards of the Rise Community Supermarket by just knowing his food preferences. And Robert, what kind of sub? You mentioned you have a sub shop there. Do you like to have on your lunch break at the sub shop?
If it's me, I'm usually buying one of the subs over in the sub shop if I'm eating there at the store. And my all-time favorite thing there's two of them. That's going to be, we got these jalapenos in a jar that are bread and butter jalapenos, and I shouldn't eat them because I have bad acid reflux, but I just can't stay off those things because they got that sweet hot jalapeno that's just really, really good. And then the second thing is probably going to be the Hannibal Black's barbecue sauce. There's a little restaurant here in town named Hannibal Black's. The couple that own it and run it, they're really great people, and they sell some of their barbecue sauce in the store, and it's the best barbecue sauce I think I've ever had. So sometimes I will put that straight on a sub, or if I'm at home, if I'm cooking chicken or something, I'm making some sort of barbecue, I always make sure I have that around because I love that stuff.
Tell us about the event itself when Rise Supermarket opened for the community of Cairo.
Well, it was an event. I poured my heart and soul into getting the store open, so it was emotional for me for that reason. But there were a great deal of people there, a lot of press there and all. People from right here in the community, people from all over the state that were present for that because everyone had worked on it for so long and put a lot of effort into making sure that it became a reality. But when it came to the actual community members, like my board members, all 7 of them are members of the community. And I saw a tear in the eye more than one of them when the store opened. And even before the store opened, when we got our first delivery of groceries and we were stocking shelves and they saw that stuff come in and they saw the reality, it was one of those things that was very impactful. And it's part of the reason why I love doing the job I do, because not just then, but to this day, there's times that you can see the impact that it makes on people in the community in such a positive way that it wasn't just on grand opening day. It was prior to grand opening days, we made leaps forward. It was on grand opening day in a major way. And since grand opening day, when certain people come to me and talk about how much of an impact it has, you can still see that there are people in this community that are really proud of their store and they're really proud of what their community's done. There are people in the community that don't have a vehicle, that don't have a way to get out of town unless they ask for a ride or they pay for a ride. That's often the way that they would do it. Some of them can't really afford that. There's people in the community. We actually just last month got approved for accepting WIC, which is the Women, Infants, and Children program that allows them to get baby formula and fresh fruits and vegetables and other healthy foods. That wasn't something that people in the community could get real easily without traveling a distance. So if you were a mother and you needed that baby formula and you didn't have a car, if you couldn't find someone to take you, I don't know how those people actually got that stuff. And to this day, you still see people come in grateful for the fact that the community's put this store here, and you see the impact that it's had on the community, and you see the pride the community has around what they did. It's a thing that can be quite emotional sometimes for some people. It really is something that brings the community together in a really profound way.
I don't think I can let you go without asking the employment situation. When you employ someone at Rise Community Market, do you see a change in their life? I mean, is it sort of like, wow, this job's really, they need this job and it's changed them?
Well, yeah, I mean, anytime you employ somebody, I've been in, the grocery business for a long time, running stores for a long time. But it's not just with the Rise Community Market, but one of the key features there too. You know, because our concern is for community, the people that we employ are part of that community. I've always believed in a uh, servant leadership form of leadership. So I've always tried to treat employees and staff with a great deal of respect and dignity, and ensure that they are part of a team and not just being bossed around. But here it goes to a whole different level because most of my employees are members of the store. They own the store too. Most of my employees have a belief in what that store brings to the community. They show up to meetings. They are active in the store beyond what your employee of a normal grocery store would. So it is not just life changing for them in a way of they've got a job and an income, but it's life changing for them in a way that it provides them an opportunity to get food. I've got one employee who doesn't have a vehicle and has several children, and would have to pay someone to give her a ride out of town to buy groceries if we weren't there. And she loves the fact that she's got a store right down the road that she can go to without having to worry about, paying someone to get access to food for her and her children.
Speaking of delivery, is this such a local supermarket that those in Cairo are not looking to an Amazon for delivery? I mean, are you competing with big corporations like Amazon?
So, the interesting thing about the co-op business model is that in our bylaws, we're not while we are considered a for-profit corporation legally, because we have to, there's just the way the laws are there and stuff with things. Our bylaws are written that our goal isn't profit. Most corporations exist to make a profit for the shareholders, things like that. That's not our goal, really. So when we operate, we don't look as much at competition. I mean, competition does play a role to some degree. It still has to, in what we carry and what we do. But we don't really look at the competition as the reason behind what we do things. What we're looking at is what benefit it brings to the community, and we're more concerned about just maintaining our state, being sustainable for the community and helping the community more than anything else. Not driving the Dollar General out of business. That's not something we ever wanted to do. And even when we stocked the store initially, we were careful to try not to compete with them too much, not because we were afraid to compete with them, but because we didn't want to close another business down or harm another business's sales. We wanted to help the community, and that's what our goal's been from the beginning.
When I think of Illinois, and I'm sure many think of Illinois, they think of Chicago. So tell us how far away you are from Chicago. Can people just come on down, if you will, to Cairo, Illinois, and explore the Rise Supermarket and support Rise Supermarket?
I suppose if somebody wanted to drive down here on a Sunday from Chicago, they could. I've made trips up to Chicago a couple times, but it's a long drive. It's clear across the state. It's about a 7 or 8 hour drive, depending on where in Chicago you're coming from. We are the southernmost tip of the state. We're closer to Tennessee than we are Chicago. If there's people in the southern part of Illinois, then they would make that trip a little bit easier. Even the central part, up in Chicago, they might want to get a room if they're coming down that far. But anybody in the state of Illinois or even the areas around us, again, we're kind of surrounded here. We got Missouri and we got Kentucky and we got Indiana nearby too, all right here. If there's anybody that's interested in learning more about, having a community owned store, or how they can start a community owned store, or what they can do to help end a food desert that might be in their community, I encourage them to, if they can't show up on the 28th, you've already mentioned the website, risecommunitymarket.com. If they can't show up on the 28th, they can reach out to me. They just use the contact us form on the website. They can reach out to me directly, and we share our resources as much as we don't have a whole lot of resources, but the biggest resource we've got is knowledge. And we've learned a lot in the last year even, we're happy to share those resources with others. I've had other groups come down and even tour the store to try and learn some stuff that they can do to try and take it back to their communities. So anything that we can offer out there that helps others to do the same and help their communities, it's not just about Cairo, it's about, helping people. So we're happy to be part of that if anyone needs that.
Robert Edwards, my theme of this podcast is accessibility, adaptability, and accountability. So how accessible is Rise Supermarket to the disabled community of Cairo? Is there a big disabled community in Cairo, Illinois?
So there are a few people that have some physical challenges that we do anything we can to support their needs. And it's not just us as a store, not just us as employees, but there's some people around town I know that have brought some people out that can't drive physically. The city itself was able to provide funding to put when we originally opened up, we had doors that were heavy glass doors that were at one time old automatic doors, but the sensors and all had long been removed. And the city actually funded putting new sliding glass doors on the front of the building to make it more accessible. That came out of city TIF funding. There's been a lot of support to try and help with that stuff. There's still more that we want to do. Right now, we don't have handicap carts. We haven't been able to source those yet. That's something that we want to be able to get in the future. We're also working on trying to get Instacart into the store. We're just dealing with some of the funding issues around that right now, because Instacart will be huge for the people that can't get out of their home. They can order online and have it delivered to them, or sometimes just have someone stop by the store and pick it up, because we may end up initially doing a order online pickup in store. But we're constantly looking at ways to help those individuals. Yes.
Robert, for those listening in New York City or other big cities around the country, and they want that small town feel in a city of 8 million people, right? How do they achieve that? What can they learn from Cairo to help their communities come together in such a big city like New York?
Well, again, I've only lived in this particular community for a couple of years, but I've moved around a lot through my career into a lot of different cities, from Indianapolis to Louisville, Cincinnati, some of those areas. And I've lived in the big cities, not as big as New York, obviously, but Cincinnati is probably, the biggest, in Indianapolis area. And I've lived in the more rural communities, even some communities smaller than this. And really, it's just about getting out there and caring. That's what it comes down to. There's always going to be more than one person that cares. And I mentioned the principles of the co-ops earlier. We have 7 principles that we operate off of, and those are easy to find online. I can't name them all off my head, but another one of those principles is helping other co-ops. And so I've had other co-ops or other groups of people that are interested in starting co-ops that are often in big towns. Food deserts aren't just in small communities like this. There are big cities. I think East St. Louis or St. Louis. There was an area up there that's trying to get a grocery store started. I'm aware of some areas in Indianapolis and Louisville that are considered food deserts. I can't think any off the top of my head in Cincinnati, but I'm sure even there in the New York area, there's areas that would be considered food deserts. And in any of those communities, all they have to do is talk to each other. That's really what it comes down to, is just talking to each other and then working toward a common goal. The community around here, a lot of people know each other and stuff because it's so small, but even in a bigger community like that, it's not hard to go out and talk to people and find people with a common goal. And once you have that common goal in a group of people, it's easier as a group of people to make positive change.
Robert, this has been so eye-opening. Now, there's no way though that you would send up one of Rise's favorite things to sell to New York.
I'll tell you what, if you give me a shipping address, I will personally get you a bottle of Hannibal Black's barbecue sauce sent your way, just so you can try it.
Well, if anybody wants to check it out or even support risecommunitymarket.com, I have I'm eye open. I want to tell you about the town, but I know that you want to keep it more to the thing. But I want to know if there's pizzerias down there, or if there's anything like what kind of faith institutions, like a church. I mean, what are the
Well,
daily things that people have that we may not know about?
there are some beautiful old buildings around here, especially some of the churches around here. So, I mean, there's just some really beautiful buildings around here. And like the post office here and stuff. It's definitely worth a trip just to see some of the buildings and the history behind them and all. There's not a pizzeria. There is a barbecue place called Shemwell's that gets a lot of attention. I've been there a couple times. And they have really good food. Uh, People that are from this area that have moved out travel here still to go there. There's a little sports bar and grill. They're not open every day of the week, but it's called Hannibal Black's. They're open Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday for lunch, and they're open in the evening on Friday and Saturday. And they've got some of the best food ever. I love them to death. That's where you'll find me at, putting on too much weight sometimes. Of course, now the grocery store itself did pizzas when we first opened up. We had to back off of that. But there are plans in the works to have fresh pizzas there at the store. There's little personal pizzas, so you can come in and get them made to order, basically. That should be happening here in the next few months, hopefully, as well.
From a city perspective, talking to someone in the small town, I've always felt I have a small town kind of heart, so I'm always keeping my eye. So thanks for coming on tonight, Robert.
Well, thank you for having me. And if you ever find yourself on a trip and you get the chance to route your way through here, let me know, and I'll get you lunch.
Oh, we will hold you to that. And if you make your way to the big city in New York, let me know. I'll definitely love to meet you.
All right, sounds
But no,
great.
I'll
Thank
definitely.
you.
I want to take a trip now. I'm very curious, and my mom's at the museum, so she wouldn't want me to not ask this question. Do you have any museums of the history of Cairo, Illinois?
So I'm going to tell you, I'm ashamed to admit this. I do know that there are some museums here, some historic. There's a historical society and some museums here, but and I really am ashamed to admit this because I'm a guy that loves history. I'm a history buff, and normally that's where I would be. But between the knee surgery and doing physical therapy and stuff, and then opening a grocery store, I haven't stepped foot in them yet, and I that's a sad thing to say.
Well, you
I
and
do.
I'll take a tour whenever I get there. You and I are going to take a tour, all right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I feel like, is there an airport? How do we get to Cairo if we want to visit?
So there is an airport here in Cairo, but it's not a major airport. I don't think you'd want to fly into that. You'd probably fly into, I'm guessing, St. Louis, if you were coming down to visit here, because we're only about 2 hours away from St. Louis, or Memphis, depending on which was the cheaper place to fly to for you. St. Louis, Memphis, and said Nashville are all about 2 hours away. I know I've had a few
So
people that
basically,
have
catch
come
a
here
Cardinal
just to
game, go to
visit.
Cairo, then go up to see the Cubs. I got it. There's my schedule right there.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I'll think about this. I bring my fiance sometimes, so hopefully we can make a trip out of this. And I'd love to meet you in person. You seem like a really good guy. And
Well,
I haven't said this yet, but congratulations on this launch of Rise. It sounds like you're really proud of this work that you've done and continue to do.
yeah, I'm very proud of the work that I don't like to take credit for it because I have not done any of this by myself. I've put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into it, but the community is really the one that is owed the congratulations, and they're the ones that have really done the work to make this possible. I wouldn't be able to do any of this without the community coming together. So yeah, I'm proud of it, but I'm more proud of the community here and what I've been welcomed into.
Well, you caught me in New York. Now I'm rolling in Long Island. See, Zoom and technology is something else. So I will. I'm gonna roll on home in my little small town of Port Wash. I actually moved out here from Queens from my fiance, so that small town feel is very vibrant in Long Island, if you could believe that.
I can believe that.
And would love to stay in touch, and let's maybe make a plan for the summer. Would love that.
Sounds great. Thank you.
All right, that was Robert Edwards, Rise Community Market leader, manager and whatnot. Thanks for joining and talking about the solar eclipse and so much more.